Are you lost in the chaotic whirlwind of day-to-day busyness? Do you yearn for a deeper sense of meaning and purpose in your life? Welcome to Be You, Your Story, Your Purpose, the podcast dedicated to empowering women on their journey of self-discovery and finding their true purpose through their own story. I'm your host, Brenda Simmons. Welcome to our podcast today. I am so excited to have my guest here. She is Shellee Howard, and she is a certified independent college strategist and counselor. So she helps middle school and high school students and their parents to prepare them for college admission, the college admissions process. She helps them create a standout strategy, get into their best fit college without getting into debt. And I think that's so key. And even how to succeed once admitted. This is really amazing stuff, Shellee. And I'm so grateful for your taking your time out of your day to be with me on the podcast today. Welcome.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure to be here.
So tell me a little bit about your journey. What led you to start College Ready? And, just tell us a little bit about the process of that.
For sure. And I'll give you the condensed version because it was quite a life-changing event. But the condensed version is my son came home, my oldest came home in 8th grade, and he's like, Mom, I know exactly what I want to do. I know where I want to go to college. And I looked at him and I'm like, seriously? And he's like, yeah. And I said, all right, let me have it. He says, yeah, I want to go to one of those Ivy things, the top Ivy things, and I want to be a brain surgeon. And I remember taking a super deep breath and going, wow, I was the first to go to college on both sides of my family. He doesn't even have a clue what all of that means. But, I'm his mom and I'll help him figure it out. So fast forward, I sought help and there was nobody that could this is back in 2008. There was nobody.
Yeah.
And so I took him to his high school counselor who basically said, why would you waste your money going to medical school? You'll just go into debt. And it's a hard path. And she just tried to really discourage him from it. And I remember looking at her and looking at my son and I said, I think we're done. And thank you for your time. And we walked out and he looked at me. He's like, Mom, what are we going to do? So I went back to school and I got my master's degree, and then I became a certified independent college consultant through UC San Diego. Started touring 25 colleges a semester, and 17 years I've been doing it now. But how it got started is my son got into 7 top tier colleges, got a full ride to USC, and Harvard matched it. So he went to Harvard free.
Wow.
4 years for free. And he was pre-med. Went on to medical school at UC San Diego, and now he's an orthopedic surgeon at UCLA. He was my why because after he did it, everybody is like, I want that. How do I get that? And I was doing it part-time. And then I realized I love this. Why am I not doing this full-time? Inspiring teenagers to be the best version of themselves and follow their dreams and get the career and make a plan. And I'm like, this is amazing. So I started it 17 years ago, and our business is just thriving because college has never been more expensive and it's never been more difficult to get in. And so I'm on a mission to help 1 million families. And that's why I'm grateful for your outreach today.
That's super amazing. So I love your why and I love your story. So I'm just curious, what did you do before you did this job?
So I did 7 other startups. The one right before this one is I was a professional photographer, and I did it so I could be at every soccer game and every cheer competition and make money while I was with my kids. And I made it a really lucrative business. And then I sold it when this looked more exciting. So I've just really been fortunate to do what I love and have the money to support my passion.
That's amazing. Well, and it's so cool how you can help these students, know how to do what they're meant to be doing, So one of my biggest frustrations, so I've got 3 kids myself. My oldest she's just in her last semester. She's doing her student teaching. and she's got loans out, and the whole thing. So I'm sitting here going, man, I wish I had known about you 10 years ago. And then I've
Mm,
got my so all of my kids are in college right now, every single one of them.
wow.
And one of my biggest frustrations, and we moved right when my oldest was a senior. And so I've seen two different high schools, right? At both high schools, my biggest frustrations is that those counselors know nothing. And
Mhm.
I know I'm being really critical, but you don't know what you don't know until you learn it. And unfortunately, you learn it too late because you
Mhm.
learn it in college, what you
Yeah,
should have known in high school. So how do you help kids navigate that whole scenario? So what I'm asking is what does it look like to be your client?
for sure. I think the bigger question to start that is when. When should they do it, right? So I'll touch on that. That's the number one question I get. And it's right, you have three kids. They're all very different, I'm guessing, like most of our
Yes.
children. The maturity is very different in all of them at seventh, eighth, and ninth grade. So what we do is we meet with a student for 30 minutes and we are honest and tell the parent they're ready or they're not ready. It could be in seventh grade, could be in eighth grade. Usually by the end of eighth grade, they're ready to start figuring out my core values, my gifts, my
Hmm.
talents, my advocacy. Like they're starting to come into themselves, right? And that's the perfect time because we pick them up before they pick their first high school classes. And then we plan out their 4-year academic plan so they know what they're doing the whole 4 years. There's no guessing or deciding. And then we start them on a Passion with Purpose project where we teach them how to lead others to create the change they want to see in the world. And they're like, whoa, how do you do that? Well, we guide them based on what they're passionate about. So right now we have 33 students, part of a nonprofit called empowereducation.world, that I mentor students to lead others to change the world in Uganda. So we just finished our third school in Uganda, and I have a partner there. And I met him. I was spent 17 days in Uganda last February, and I had lunch with this man, and he opened up the world of need and I brought it back to my students, and my students are like, I want to do that. I want to do, they're so excited to help another person. But what they're finding is I like math or I don't. I like people or I don't. I want to start a business. I want to be an influencer. They get a chance to test it out, and then they start to cross off. I thought I wanted to do engineering because I like Legos, but I really don't like engineering. I really like environmental science. So we're helping them at a very early age figure out who they are. And once they figure out who they are, imagine if every high schooler did 200 service hours before they turned 18, what our world would be like. It would be a
Oh,
whole different
absolutely.
world. So if I'm helping them to do that gently in an area they love with their friends and family, and they're starting to learn who they are and what matters to them, they're going to go into the world very differently with this huge idea of, I don't want to do that. And I'm pretty sure this is my path, which gives them confidence to go forward and do it with confidence. Yeah.
That's really amazing. How do you help them narrow down what project to do?
We start with their 10 passions. For some students, right, some children, they can do boom, 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 10
Right.
easy. For some, doing two is hard. Some of them, I just like to game. That's it. Or I just like to be on my phone, period. And so we have to actually coach them to help them learn what they are passionate about outside of the computer and outside of their phone. You remember back in the day, we would play out on the street and you knew if you were fast or slow, if you were, good at braiding hair or if you were good at painting with chalk. Nowadays, they don't have those opportunities. So what we do is we start with that and we help them to get clarity. I have students who say, I just love to shop. Okay, well, what do you like about shopping? I like that I can make people feel good with what they wear. Great. Do you like the elderly? Yes, I do. How would you feel about taking them out shopping to get them a new outfit? Oh my gosh, that would be amazing. Do you see how it just
It's really
grows?
thinking outside of the box there, but it's following their passions. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, so I can do it with, I mean, I've done probably thousands of them at this point. And so it's simply listening, repeating it back, and then helping them brainstorm and think outside of what their normal world is. Because if their parents don't serve their community, they're not going to understand what does that look like. And not bad
Right.
on the parent, they just won't know. Or if their parent says you must serve and this is how we're going to do it, and they don't want to do it like that, now they have this awful taste that I don't like serving. But what they don't like is how their parent is serving. So we start with what's inside them, and then we help them to lean into what their love and passion is, but more importantly, what they advocate for. If a student is very, very on fire about human trafficking, their passion will be on fire to stop that. And so we want to help them to understand you can use what you love to stop something that is not okay. And this generation, they're big advocates. They're the first ones who say this is not okay.
Right. Oh, I totally agree with that because my kids are so vocal about that. Like, Mom, no, you've stepped over a line, Mom. Okay, all right. So yeah,
Yeah.
I totally understand that.
And so
That's
when we
awesome.
yeah, we teach this is all we do. We get to their why. Why? Right? Remember when they were 3 and they asked, but why? But why?
Constantly. Yes, yes.
Now as teenagers, I ask them, why do you do that? Why do you play basketball? Why do you run track? Why are you a singer? What? And then they tell me why. And then we're like, great. How do we do more of that? And how do we change somebody else's life? And they're like, I don't know. It's a conversation with skill, right? We are skilled at this, and we're not their parent. We have
Yeah.
no judgment zone. We have nothing other than their interest of what they want to do. Because I know when I told my own children, hey, let's go serve like this, they're like, oh, that's stupid. Like, I don't want to do that. When I tell my students, what about this? They're like, that's perfect. And their parents are about ready to fall off the chair.
Right. I think every parent has experienced that, right?
For
That's
sure.
amazing. So you have the passion project, and then so how do you use that then to guide them through high school and then beyond?
So when we start with their core values, the things that they are now very attached to, and then we look at their gifts and their talents they were given. Some students, like my firstborn, he never had homework and it made me crazy. I was always on, why are you on the computer and gaming? Where's your homework? And he says, Mom, I have all A's in all AP classes. What do you want from me? And I'm like, I don't know, but I don't know kids like you.
Right.
Like I wasn't that. And then my second born, her work ethic was so heavy duty and she fought for every A and B. Totally different. So understanding that child and what they come with, that the student doesn't need every AP or every IB or every dual enrollment. They need to understand these are my gifts. I challenge myself here. I give myself grace here. I understand myself well enough that if I take really hard classes in the areas I am not gifted at, it's going to lower the bar for everything because it's going to drain me. And we
Yep.
teach them early on, you were given this, use this, right? Don't be lazy about it because it was a gift to you. And so when they lean into it and they're like, yeah, I am really good at math, or I am a really good writer, let's go write a book. And they're like, what do you mean? I just said I was a good writer. And I'm like, why not write a book? And they're like, well, I didn't know I could write a book. So we start with them. We help to figure out what do they want? If they want to go to a local state school, we want them to aim a bit higher than that, right? If they want to go to an Ivy school, we have to show them this is what you have to do every step to get there. And so it's really listening and helping them understand. Do you always want to live in your family's home? And they're like, oh, heck no. Like, no, that would be awful.
Right.
And we want them to know how much will it cost for you to live on your own? And they're no idea, no concept. And as parents, we do a really good job of providing for our kids, but they have no idea what that's going to be like when we're done.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
so we talk about here's a career that aligns with your gifts, talents, and advocacy, but it only makes $20,000 a year. And they're like, that's awesome. And you're like, no, 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 no. That
The
is
reality
not
check, right?
that is not going to help you live the life you're currently living. And they're like, I don't understand what you mean. So we are the gentle, here's adulting 101. Do you want a new car every year or do you want to drive the same one for 20 years? What do you mean? Like there's not a lot of I mean, I've had maybe a dozen in 17 years who say, well, I'm going to do this. I'm going to make an investment, have some passive income. And they're, blah, 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 and I'm like, are your parents investors? And they're like, yeah. And
Yes.
so, you know,
They've been right.
yeah, they've been introduced. But for most families, parents provide, but they don't explain what it takes to live the life they're living. And so we help them to get clarity. Do you want a job that you impact people every day? Do you hate people and you just want to be in a lab, right? Because that quality of life, that socialization, this generation, they want to actually impact others. They're not okay with just going and having a job for 20 years. They're in a very different place. They're changing careers every 3 years. There's just not that longevity. And I can tell them if a robot will be doing their job in 5 years.
Right.
That's important for a child before they plan to spend 300,000 on a college degree and their career is going to be done by a robot. That's impactful because now they can reverse engineer it and go, wait, I want this. I'm motivated by this. I want to impact this. We're not talking about, I want to go to Stanford or I want to go to San Diego State until their sophomore year. But we're teaching them what do they want and then what is a good college to get them to what they want. College is not the end game. It's just the stepping stone to their future.
Yes. Yes. So part of what your work is helping them to go in debt free. And we all know the price of colleges and universities has just skyrocketed. I remember when I was in college, I paid $1,050 per semester.
Mhm.
And now I look at what my kids are facing and I'm like, that is astronomical. It's absolutely crazy. So how do you help these guys? I mean, obviously scholarships is one option, but what are some of the other options that you help them find?
So there's three buckets of money. If I can just take it to the simplest.
Yep.
First thought is this. Everybody who's listening, imagine you own a business. Somebody comes to you and says, I would like a job, and they've never had a job and they don't have a resume. But they're sweet and you want to give them a chance, so you pay the minimum wage, right?
Hmm.
Now you have somebody who comes and says, I can run this department and double your profitability, and here's my proof, right? Following me?
Yeah.
College
Yeah.
is the same way. Student builds a resume and a standout strategy that is going to wow colleges. They're going to get big money. Student
Hmm.
has done very little, they're minimum wage and they're lucky to get there. You have to
Right.
remember, college is a business. They need your students' tuition to stay in business, right? So
Right.
they need you as much as you need them. So when people go in thinking, I can't afford that, and they look at the sticker price, I would encourage them to think, how did they buy their first car? How did they buy their first home? Very few people ever pay the sticker price on either of those, right?
Hmm.
But somebody educated you on this is how you negotiate a deal. I teach families how to negotiate a deal. So there are ways. So the first bucket is helping the student be their very best version of them. And oh, by the way, isn't that what we're hoping to do as a parent? Of course,
Right. Right.
right? And then they have this breadth of opportunity that things that they can talk about and be proud of and experiences that they can talk about in a college interview, on an essay, that they are building their resume. Then we have the second bucket, and that's scholarships. That's knowing when you build your college list, where are the generous colleges? They're out there. And if money is important, we want you to make sure you're applying to generous colleges as well as your other dream schools. And then we'll even show you, do you do early decision, early action, regular decision? All of that is a financial strategy. So when students see, yes, I would like an early decision, parents don't realize that is a binding decision. They must go there and they must pay full price. It's
Ah,
not at all
interesting.
the same thing that a student is.
But
And now
but you don't know that.
you don't know it. And
Yeah.
so we teach, right? We educate families on how to build the best student, right? How to get the big scholarships. 21, 22, our students earned 23 million in
Wow.
scholarships. And that was on top of need based. That wasn't just need based, that was over and above. And then the third bucket, understanding how to lower your student aid index. It used to be EFC, how to complete the FAFSA. 91% of the people who complete the FAFSA do it wrong. 91.
Really? What's so okay, no, so because
Yeah.
I just did this for my kids. I'm like, what did I do wrong? So tell me so how is it that people do it wrong?
So if you want to do it yourself, read the FAFSA code. It's like tax code,
Hmm.
but it tells you we're going to look at this and we're not going to look at this.
Hmm.
Right? So one would think if they're not going to look at this, would it not be prudent to see if we can have our assets sit there? Yeah.
Oh, so it doesn't count against you. Yes. Okay. All right.
So we're educating people on how to put your financial house in order for your students to get the big scholarships. We are not financial advisors. We are college strategists. We're helping the student strategize, the family pick the right colleges to get the big scholarships, and ultimately helping the family know how to lower their SAI, how to complete the FAFSA and CSS profile correctly. And you put all three together, and that is how we do it.
So that's where the parents come in because you're really talking one-on-one with the student to help them, find their passions and know what direction. And then you're working with the parents on the financial end, on their end, so that they can show the right quote unquote income, right?
Right?
And assets. So that's really amazing. That's so talk to me now about how do you help your students find the right college and even the right major for them?
Yeah. So when a student starts with us, the very first thing that we do is we take them through 8 career assessments. And they do them. These are not ones you would find online. These are strictly to help them figure out what are my gifts and talents and deficits, saying I will be successful at. Okay. So they do these 8 assessments. We are certified advisors. We explain to them based on how this lays out your assessment, here are a list of careers that say would be a good fit for you. Then we show them this is how much money they'll make. Then we show them this is a good trajectory of they're going to be in business for a long time, or this is a dying career.
Oh, that's
Then,
good to know. Yeah.
right? So we start there. That's the end, right? That's the very end as we launch our child. Here's the career that's going to allow them to live the life we want them to be able to have. So we start with the end, then we come backwards. We help them to find their top 3 careers, and we have all of the resources to help them deep dive. What do I do every day in that career? Do I sit in front of a computer? Do I talk to people? Am I outside? We unpack because most teenagers, if their parent doesn't do it or an aunt and uncle, they're like, what is that? What does a statistician do?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I think most kids start with I want to be a teacher because that's what they know, right? Yeah.
So then from there, we're able to go back into what does it take to get to that career? Do they need a 4-year degree, a 6-year degree, an 8-year degree? Like that's important. If a child doesn't really like school, they're not going to be in it for the long haul. We need to find a career that aligns with, hey, I'm done at 4 and that's all I'm doing. So we want to make sure the number one most unemployed major right now is psychology. There's a
Mm,
huge movement for mental health. And so these kids are advocating for their friends and family who are struggling. The problem is, without a continuing education, there's no job called psychology.
no,
So
no.
kids go in and they come out, and there's nothing in the want ads that they can do. And so we're helping them get in alignment. Then we help them to find out here are the best majors for this career. Then we help them to understand not every college has every major, and they're shocked.
Hmm.
What do you mean? And then we have to help them understand. And I show them, we have a beautiful program that I can show all of the data into them. And then from there, we even take it a step further. And that is helping them make the connection with if I want to go and work corporate America in finance, this is the path. If I want to be an entrepreneur, this is the path. If I want to be a CPA, this is the path. A doctor, a lawyer, an engineer. They have a plan, and with a plan, all they have to do is work on getting it done. The reason why most students are procrastinating is they don't know what to do. And that is the biggest tragedy.
Or they just keep going to school and add on majors and add on classes because yeah, they don't. I've been there, been there, done that, right? No, this is the craziest story. So I got to college and I had no idea what I wanted to do. And so I went to the career office and I said, I just know I can't sit at a desk my whole life. I cannot do that. Physically impossible. And so didn't help me at all. She sat me down with this 3-inch tome and said, here's a list of careers. Go through it and pick one. That was it. That was the help that I got.
Oh,
And it was just so disheartening. I found a career called forestry that I grew up camping and I really love the outdoors. And I thought, oh, they take care of the forest. That would be really cool. So that's how I chose my degree. I got into it and I found that I actually really loved environmental education. Loved it. Problem was my college didn't have that degree. And
that's
so
it.
I'm trying to put together, well, so I've got a minor in communications, right? And just again, doing it on my own as a college student, and I've got
Yeah.
a degree in wildlife, minor in communications, and tried to get a job in education. And I had some internships, but I couldn't ever find a job that doing that. Part of it
Mhm.
was where I was living. There just wasn't the opportunity to. And so that made a big difference as well. And so I've had to reinvent myself several times because I never had that solid ground, you
Right.
know? So I think what you're doing is so invaluable and so helpful for these kids just to have that good direction. So that's super amazing. I love it.
I feel very fortunate every single day that I get to do what I do. I mean, when kids get in, I have a student just contacted me. Hey, I just got into Purdue full ride. No, he says we just got into Purdue, and I'm like, when do we go?
Me. That's awesome.
And I'm like, I couldn't have got in alone, but good on us. Yeah.
Right.
So it is the most rewarding career because I'm launching other people's children successfully into their future. And we get the opportunity to spend time with these kids and they become like family. And we stay in touch and it really you can see that the planning pays off tremendously. If you don't plan, you plan to fail. In this world,
Absolutely.
it's inevitable. It's like planning for retirement at 70. It just doesn't work like that.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. So once they're in college, let's say I mean, obviously they already know what they want to do by then, right? So then do you help them as they're in college navigate, what they need to do there as well?
At that point, the college takes over.
Okay.
And I stay on as a mentor, like if, hey, what do you think about this? But it's not our consistent, regular process. Some colleges do it really well. Like Harvard was amazing. My son, they held his hand. I mean, it was quite something. And then, at UCLA, not so much. It's a big public school. So that's it. Again, you get what you pay for, and you want to be mindful. Does my child want to crash every single class, or do they want to be in a classroom with the professor and 11 other students? There's a lot to it. Knowing your child or them knowing themselves, how will they be successful? I know my daughter went and visited her brother at Harvard and said, "Oh, heck no. No way am I going here, right?" And she's like, "I'm going to University of Alabama where they roll tide, like totally different kids." And we need the students to understand that's part of it. A lot of kids at the Ivies just fall apart because now they're amongst every other gifted student, and it's not a
Exactly.
place to be.
They're no longer the big fish. Right.
Yeah, they're a big fish with all the other big fishes.
Yep. Yep.
So
Oh, that's
we
amazing.
do help them, and then they do stay on as mentors. So my younger students can reach out, and like I have a student full ride at Vanderbilt, and she's doing engineering, and so she'll take student phone calls from College Ready and tell them this is what it's really like.
Wow.
And they're like, whoa. And it's just because they become part of the family, it's they don't want to disconnect. So it's actually quite fun.
So I'm sure that you don't necessarily, well, I don't know. I'm assuming. So you can answer this question. Are there schools that are better to work with than others?
So absolutely yes, depending on what you need. So for a student who wants to do theater, right, and they want to be on Broadway, there's definitely better schools to set them up for that. If somebody wants to go into medicine, there are some amazing schools, but there's some schools that aren't really good at getting kids into medical school. I tell this story all the time. My son, right? He was pre-med at Harvard, got 1B. He took the MCAT, got a 98%, applied to 33 medical schools and got into 3. So,
Wow.
yeah.
That's
So
great. That's wow.
no. So it's important for families to understand what is the end goal because you have to graduate at the top of your college class if you want to go into law or that next level. It's not over in 4 years.
Right.
And knowing your child, do they have the tenacity to fight for it that long? Two of mine do, two of mine don't.
Right. And it's really putting them in that right place because if they're in the wrong place, they'll tank.
Right.
Yeah.
And, they'll come home, they'll want to transfer. Every time a student transfers, add $100,000 to that bottom line.
Wow.
So helping families do it the right way, the gentle way, the kids don't even realize they're preparing for college because we start their building their essays the day they start in our program. We know the essays they're going to be asked to write. So why not build that experience for the child organically? So when they sit down to write the essay, they're like, this is
Got it.
easy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's the beauty of starting earlier than later. And then, of course, financially, the FAFSA looks at the second semester of the sophomore year. So if families are waiting till their junior and senior year, they're putting themselves at a deficit just by default, by
Right.
starting past that deadline.
And those are things that most parents don't even know.
Oh,
You're
no,
just not taught that, So that makes it a double whammy. The student doesn't know and the parents don't know. So it's like the blind leading the blind, right?
for sure. And that's why I love doing these podcasts, is because I can get the information out there and then the parents aware. They can choose to do what they want with that knowledge, but at least they are not frustrated. Everybody said, there's no way your son could get a full ride to Harvard. And I'm like, well, he did. So I don't know what to tell you. I don't make it up.
Right.
I have him crossing the stage like, woo, like,
Yeah.
so every student has their own path. They're amazing schools. We help students with a 3.0 well up to a 5.0, and they all have a great opportunity. They just need to know what they need to do, and then they're willing to do it. Very rare
Yeah.
do I have a student who's not willing to do it.
Well, if they understand the path and the reason why, and they're showing, and I think it's key that it's not their parents showing them too, because that's, as we discussed earlier. So I've got a question about how about trade schools? Like, do you work within that realm? Because not every person is meant to go to a college or university, and I don't mean any disrespect by that because I mean we are in a trade. My husband and I have owned a handyman business for over 20 years, and that's been the right thing for him.
Mhm.
And you can do very, very well in a trade. So how do you manage those kids that are maybe don't fit the mold of the college student?
And we find that out very early when we do their assessments and they want to work with their hands, right?
Hmm.
When they want to, I have a nephew who he welds race car mufflers. He loves what he does. He makes great money at what he does. It is the perfect fit for him. But you still need to help that child because they don't understand. They don't know what they want to do because they don't know all the trade schools. They don't know what their gifts can lead to. Here's
Agreed.
the question to ask though, and here's a real question I ask every student, doesn't matter if they think college or not college, is when you're 60, do you want to be on your hands and knees laying flooring because you chose to do that trade? Or do you want to own several and have employees doing that? That's the bigger question. When you're 20, being a plumber and like it sounds really cool, or a welder, or a whatever. Both my parents were tradespeople, so I have full respect. The struggle is like my mom has been a hairdresser her whole life. Her knees hurt, her back hurts,
Hmm.
her hip hurts, her hands hurt. Like that's her path that she chose at 15, right? But now she's like, why didn't I take some business classes to help me to be able to have other people doing that part and me at some point step back? And that's all I'm trying to help people understand. The number one thing I get right now is I want to be an influencer. That's what I am getting. And I'm like, so that's great. Where's your business plan? And they're like, well, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, you just don't wake up one day and you're an influencer. Like, what's
Right,
the
right.
plan, right? And again, they just don't know what they don't know. So I encourage every student to figure that out before they decide if college, if not college, then what? But we have to have the if what, the long and short term plan.
Agreed. Agreed. And I will bear testimony that what you're saying is true because your body can only last so long. And so if you don't have an exit strategy that works financially for you, that's a problem, you know? And so yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying. So being able to show the student what that long term looks like is so important. Okay, got another question for you. I saw just because my kids were in this phase, it seemed like COVID took a big hit on the college and university system. What have you seen as far as how that system has changed any? I know like I've got two kids who have decided to go the online college route. Um, so I would just love for you to speak to what changes have come about because of COVID.
Yeah, it's funny. We don't talk about COVID much anymore. So I'll take a step back. Obviously, I was impacted. My son graduated from medical school in the thick of COVID. So it was an online medical school graduation. Ouch.
Oh, that's horrible.
My daughter graduated from nursing school online because of COVID.
Yeah,
My my stepson, my second son, he spent his first year at college in a dorm by himself online.
yeah,
It hugely impacted my family,
yeah,
but
yeah.
it made them stronger. I'm telling you, it really taught them that with desire and tenacity, I can do a lot. What we're seeing as the bigger problem. So first, the other positive. We're now a global world. We can take classes
Absolutely.
online. If you look at the positive side, Zoom has opened up our way of communicating, right? And these kids have
Absolutely.
opportunity to listen to a Harvard lecture without even being in Boston. Like that's amazing. The downside, for the kids who were in middle school, their math is really lacking. We're really seeing a big hit in math because that's such a critical piece of learning. And so those students now are having a hard time taking the SAT and the ACT. The other thing that was impacted is some schools went test optional or test blind. But now, guess what? We don't know if they're going to be blind or optional tomorrow. So there's no more
Right.
test optional. You can't count on it. So you might as well just plan on doing that. What it has taught kids is to really think about opportunities and return on investment. Really think about, is
Yeah.
college the only path? A lot of kids are saying no, but they're also saying, I don't know what else there is. I don't want that, and I don't want debt. I mean, there are 10 colleges that are tuition free. Tuition free. All the kid has to do is
Wow.
work and it's tuition. So when kids say, I'm not going to go to college because I don't want to go into debt, that is not good because they can work
Yeah.
and get themselves through school. So if a child doesn't want to go to college because they don't want to learn, that's one thing.
That's
But
totally different. Right.
but if they do want to learn, there's so many paths. And like I said, we're getting massive scholarships. So I look at it as, good and bad. Who I'm really seeing got impacted is the children who are learning how to talk because we were in a mask world.
Yes.
They got hit big time and they're really learning at a much slower pace. And so we're finding that the littles have a bigger leap than even the kids who are in middle school. So we're going to see the repercussions for years to come. And I will say that kids are looking at other avenues like entrepreneurship, like different paths other than just a traditional path. It could be a gap year, it could be a deferment, it could be
Hmm.
my fourth child. Perfect example of a COVID kid. She graduated high school in COVID And she is now going to school in the Czech Republic of Prague, studying international business, touring all over Europe while getting a 4-year degree for $27,000 in total.
Wow.
That
That's
happened
amazing.
because she didn't want what her older brother had of being stuck in a dorm by himself online. So she's like, I'm gonna go do something different.
Find my own path. She did. That's fantastic.
Yeah. So that's what we do. We start with the child, right? The teenager, and then we customize it to them. There's not a one size fits all in this world. It
Yeah.
really is. Who are they and how can we support them?
Oh, that's really beautiful. So, what is one tip that you could give parents uh, who are trying to help their kids, prepare for college? What would you tell them?
For sure, plan. I would definitely say that's a for sure thing. But other than that obvious piece, it is get your student help outside of what you don't know. In other words, if they need support in SAT or ACT and you're not a test strategist, there's online opportunities. There's so much support. Either go out and figure it out or hire somebody like myself and just get it done the right way. Because if you Google college planning, there's 77,000 responses.
Yeah.
And you're not going to get all of that data on your own correct. And it's just like tax code, it's just like real estate. It's such a different, unique thing. So either be all in and hope your child will listen to you as a parent, and or do not let your 16, 17, 18-year-old navigate this on their own. They are not ready, and the payout, the expense will hurt them for the rest of their life. They need you one way or the other.
So, Shellee, you have a special gift for our listeners. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I absolutely would love to share. We really do give a lot of free resources, and the one that I'm going to share with your listeners is 50 things to do over the summer that will be meaningful and impactful. Parents, just realize we're planning for summer right now, and summer programs are already closing. They're already full. So here's a list to help you understand a great way because summer is the best time to help them figure out what they want to do in their future.
Fantastic. And I will post a link to that because it's on your website. I'll post a link to that in the show notes. And if somebody wants to contact you, how can our listeners find you?
So if you go to our website, www.collegereadyplan.com, you can sign up for webinars, for resources, get a copy of my best-selling book, How to Send Your Student to College Without Losing Your Mind or Your Money. We want to support you and educate you. And for your listeners, I will also give them a 30-minute discovery call with myself so I can answer any of their questions.
Fantastic. We love that. Thank you so much, Shellee. It's been such a pleasure having you on the podcast. I really do wish that I had known you 10 years ago. It would have really changed my kids' lives, but I see, wow, what an opportunity to help other people. So thank you so much for the service that you are giving to others. That's fantastic.
Oh, you're welcome, and thanks for having me on the show.
All right. Take care. Thanks so much, Shellee. Wasn't she great? I really enjoyed talking with Shellee. One of the things that I really love the most about what she does is how she really individualizes each program for the student, it's him or herself, and really dives into what do they love to do. And this is one of my own passions. I used to run an after school program, and that was one of the things that I really wanted to do was to help give experiences to the kids so that they would explore different areas of passion. And we started when they were in third grade, and I had so much fun doing it. And so I love that she is taking that and really running with how can we find something that is the very best path for this student. And so I just think that is a wonderful way to to follow your passion and really create something that is truly meant for you. So I hope you found some value in this podcast. If you did, please like it. Please follow me. And if you know somebody who could really use this information, maybe they've got some kids who are in the middle school age that really need some direction or could use this kind of instruction, please share this podcast with them. It really is the highest compliment to me. And until next time, please know that your purpose is found in your story. Take care.
Celebrate your dreams, let them take flight, for you are a star, shining bright in every step you